Hi, my name is Holly Starkey, fantasy story editor. I edit all subgenres of fantasy, from romance, secondary world, epic, paranormal. So in my last video, I talked about character goals and motivations. And I thought a great follow-up video for that would be how to choose your protagonist, because that connects very strongly to character goal and motivation. So I like to first say, of course, you can have multiple protagonists in a story. I do not recommend it unless you are a very seasoned fantasy author and you're someone who enjoys a very, very huge challenge, because when it's done well, it's brilliant. But when it's done poorly, it's like brutal to read. So I always recommend that people stick to one protagonist just to make it easier. Writing a fantasy novel, one, especially when they sprawl over multiple books, is hard enough. So let's just make it a little easier on ourselves and just choose one protagonist. It just would be a lot easier. And I like to say that multiple protagonists is not the same as having multiple points of view. You can have one protagonist and multiple points of view. That's fine. I might do a later video on that about how to effectively write multiple points of view. But when it comes to choosing a protagonist, so let's say you've built your fantasy world, and world building to me is just amazing. Making all your species and history and cultures and bringing them all together. And let's say you started developing your core cast, because if you're writing a series, you're going to have new characters come in every book, but you want to have a core cast that's going to be with the reader through all the books. So let's say you're looking at your core cast and you're trying to decide who is going to be my lead character, who's going to be my protagonist. And let's say you've narrowed it down to 2 characters, but you're just not sure which one of them should be the main character. So one way to make this decision, I think one of the best ways, is to look at goals and motivation. So you have your big goal. So let's say in this scenario, let's say the big goal is to defeat an evil wizard. Okay, so that's a pretty common main goal in fantasy novels. So let's say you're going to destroy an evil wizard or an evil mage, some big evil person who threatens the world as your characters know it. So that person, that's the goal, destroy that person. But the details of the goal is going to determine who your protagonist is. So I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. And in these 2 scenarios, we're going to have the same 2 characters, and their motivations are going to be the same. And the goal of the story is going to be the same. But what's going to change is the details. So the details of the goal are going to change from the first scenario to the second scenario. And I think that's the best way to show you how to choose a protagonist based off of goals and motivations. So character one, an evil mage. The evil mage came to her kingdom, killed her father, the king, attempted to kill her but failed. She escaped, but she now lives in exile and poverty, and her people suffer because of this, because the evil mage is in their kingdom. Character number 2. So character number 2 lives in a small town. His town is being threatened by the evil mage because the evil mage demands a certain percentage of the people in the town's income, and if they don't give it to him, he's going to come and destroy the village. But also within that village, this person's family protects a weapon they've protected for centuries, a weapon of great power, and the main character is part of this protector. He's the protector of that weapon along with other members of his family. It's like something that's passed down from generation to generation. So that is a motivation for both characters in terms of them wanting to defeat the evil wizard. And the goal of the story, of course, is to defeat the evil wizard. But the details of the goal of the story for this scenario is to get the evil wizard, to kill him at the kingdom, at that character's kingdom. So the woman who lost her father and was exiled, the evil mage is sitting on that throne, sucking her kingdom's resources, because her kingdom has powerful resources, and he's using those resources to build his control over the world as they know it. And he's getting stronger and stronger. So the goal of the story is to get to this kingdom, kill him, get him off the throne, get rid of his people there so that his power won't keep growing, and to really just defeat him once and for all. So in that scenario, you would choose the heiress, the woman who is in exile from her kingdom. She would be your protagonist because what she is, her personal motivation connects very strongly to the details of the goal of the story. The details of the goal of the story is to get that evil wizard out, kill him, but get him specifically out of that kingdom, because he's draining those resources and using those resources to rule the world around him. And so because that is the goal of the story, to go to that kingdom and to stop him from doing that and ultimately kill him, she makes the most sense to be the protagonist, because she has the most to lose in that scenario, and she is the most personally involved in the goals of that particular story. So let's do, in the second scenario, let's keep the goal the same. We're going to destroy the evil wizard. The motivations for those two characters are the same. Character number one, her father was killed, who was the king. Evil mage took the throne, tried to kill her, but she escaped, lives in exile and in poverty. Character number two is from a family that is protecting this very powerful weapon, and his town is being threatened by the evil wizard because they have not given over a certain percentage of income, a percentage that he deems necessary. If he doesn't, they don't give it up, he's going to come and destroy them. So those motivations are the same. And the goal is the same. The details of the goal are different, because now the details of this goal and the details of this plot, the evil mage is no longer at her kingdom. He's left some minion in charge. He has actually been roaming the countryside for the last, 6 months or so, going from smaller kingdom to smaller kingdom, town to town, looking for this powerful weapon of legend he's heard of. And for instance, he's telling everybody he's going there because he wants more money from these towns, and he's destroying them because they're not giving him the money he feels he's due. But in reality, in secret, and the two characters know about this, he's actually looking for this weapon. He's looking for this weapon because when he gets this weapon, he will be able to control the known world. So in that scenario, we would choose character number two. So character number two would be the best protagonist, because that character has the most to lose. He is in charge. His family is in charge of this powerful weapon. His town is being directly threatened and actively being searched for in this scenario. So we would pick him. Of course, she is still important. In the over the course of many books, the minion will probably be overthrown and she will get her kingdom back, but that's not the end of the story. They still have to stop the evil mage from getting that weapon, and that goal connects more strongly to that second character. So you would have him as the protagonist in this scenario instead of her, like in the first scenario. So I hope that makes sense. First scenario, we're choosing her because the story, the details of the story goals center on her kingdom and the resources this evil wizard is pulling from her kingdom, and he is using those resources to control the world. And this second scenario, the evil wizard has left that kingdom, roaming the countryside looking for this weapon. He's going to use that weapon to rule the world. So of course, then the main character was switched to that man who is from that town and who is also the one in charge of that weapon, whose family is also in charge of that weapon. So I try to give those scenarios to kind of make sense how you would choose your protagonist. It's not necessarily who has the biggest story, because you could say, the biggest story may be the woman who is the heiress and is no longer in charge of her kingdom. But in scenario number two, that story is second place to the man who's the keeper of this weapon, and his family is the keeper of this weapon. But in scenario one, where the evil wizard is in charge, of her kingdom and using those resources to do his evilness. Her story is the most important and connects most strongly to what's going on. So I hope that makes sense. And if I was to do another example, I won't make up another one. I'll use Harry Potter, for instance. So in Harry Potter, Ron is probably one of my favorite characters of the whole story. I love his family. I want the Weasleys to be my parents. You know, they're amazing. He's fascinating to me, and I really can relate to a lot of what Ron goes through. But the story isn't really about Ron, and if she had made Ron the protagonist, it would be in competition with Harry, because who has the most personal connection to Voldemort out of Harry and Ron? It's Harry, of course. So you would choose Harry as the protagonist, because if you do a bunch of Ron scenes, then the reader will start to get annoyed, because they're like, well, what about what's going on with Harry? You know, Harry's the one that Voldemort was after, and Ron's interesting, but the story really isn't about him. So that's a way to do that. So just make sure you pick for your protagonist the person who connects most strongly to the details of the goal. Of course, the goal is to, in Harry Potter, defeat Voldemort, but there's a lot of details in that goal. And a lot of those details, if you're choosing between Harry and Ron, or Harry and Hermione, or even all three of them, the details of that goal connect more strongly to Harry. So you just have to look at that. Look at the details of your story goal and look at your characters and see, okay, who is the most at stake. And also you may want to look at who also has the most to learn. Kind of, because you want someone who's going to be able to grow as the story goes on, because this is going to sprawl out over many books. So I hope that makes sense, you know, picking a protagonist that connects to your story goal and the details of your story goals the most. Thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Holly Starkey, Fantasy Story Editor, and I'm going to end this video here because I feel like I started to ramble a little bit in the end. But if you want to know more about my editing services, definitely check it out. I have it linked in the description box below. It's just hollystarkey.com, and you can see what I have to offer. And I will do new videos daily for the next couple weeks, and then I will drop down to new videos 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.